Good day everybody. I have a video channel, a YouTube channel for grade 10 to 12 accounting. I thought it would be a good idea though to include the accounting topics that are covered in grade 8 as well as grade 9 EMS. So you do quite a bit of accounting during your grade 8 and grade 9 EMS here, and the videos that I'm going to do are going to focus on the accounting aspects of those. So the topic for today is your cash journals, in other words your cash receipts journal and your cash payments journal. Before I go through an example on these journals, I just need to highlight your source documents for each of your journals. Now, a source document is a written record of a transaction. You have to keep a written record of all transactions, because if you don't, you're going to forget what transactions have actually taken place. For the cash receipts journal, there are three source documents. The first one here is a receipt. A receipt is used when it's necessary to keep a record of the name of the person from whom the money is received, and that person also must come into the business as well, and that's when you give him a receipt. Cash register tape is used for the bulk of your transactions because that is going to be used when you sell stock. Remember, cash register tape is a till slip. When you sell stock, there's no way you can issue each of your customers with a receipt. It will take far too long. So instead, the items are scanned, and the till slip is what you use to record all cash sales. Then sometimes it happens where people put money directly into your bank account. They either do it by EFT or debit order, and the document there, the place you find out about those transactions, is from your bank statement. So the cash receipts journal then used to record all money, as the name suggests, received by the business, and you can have any one of those three source documents. The cash payments journal is used when money is paid by the business, and here you only have one source document, which is your bank statement, and that's used to record all EFT payments and withdrawals of cash, or if you pay something by debit order. Alright, the worked example now, they tell you that JC Technology sells computers, so the computers are their trading stock. And then some stock is marked with a secret price code, namely I love techno, in this case I equals 1. Secret price codes are used where it's difficult to put barcodes onto items. So in other words, for things like furniture, computers, and so on, it's much easier to work with a secret price code than to actually put barcodes onto those items. Alright, and I will cover that when I go through an example on that. Right, the transaction for January, the first transaction here. The owner JC had a capital balance of 300,000 and wanted to increase it to 420,000, and the additional capital was transferred directly into the bank account of the business. So the business is receiving money here. The source of your information would be your bank statement. The person paying you is JC, and the amount of money you receive is 120,000, and that was for capital. If you don't have a special column for something, you have to use sundry accounts, which is why I wrote capital under sundry accounts. Just one other thing as well, you'll notice analysis of bank stayed empty. That is because the money did not come into the business before we banked it. We only record stuff under this column here if the money comes into the business before we take it to the bank. In this case, it went directly into the bank account. Okay, the next transaction, 10 computers with a total cost of 22,000, all costing the same amount, were purchased from Apex for resale purposes. So in other words, we're talking about trading stock, and they tell you that you get a trade discount. Okay, to calculate the amount you need to use here, you take the 22,000 and you subtract 10%, and that gives you 19,800. This transaction here, that's the amount you record under the bank as well as under trading stock. You'll notice here sundry account stays empty because there is a trading stock column. Okay, the next one. Cash sales for the day according to CRT were 23,400 and the cost price is 11,500. And on the same date, we received rent from JJ. His monthly rent was 8,000, but we're going to reduce that by 10%. Both of those involve money received by the business. So for the first one, cash register tape would be your document, sales would be your details. Under sales, you record the selling price. Under cost of sales, you record the cost price. You need to record selling price and cost price when you are selling goods so that you can work out your profit. Now the amount that would be received here would actually be your selling price. So under analysis of bank, because the people are in your business when they give you the money, is 23,400. Now you will notice that I did not put that in the bank straight away. And that is because on the same day I received rent from JJ. We don't have a rent income column, so we need to use sundry accounts here. And to calculate that amount, you take the 8,000 and you subtract 10% off that. And then at the end of the day, you add those two numbers up and go to the bank once. So if you had 15 transactions on the same day, you'd have 15 amounts under analysis and one total under bank. So if the transactions take place on the same day, don't bank them individually. Go to the bank at the end of the day. Alright, then the next one. Paid 6,000 Rand to Macro. 5,500 was for stationery for the business and the rest was for the owner. So we are paying Macro 6,000, 5,500 for stationery, and the rest of it, 500, goes to drawings, which is the account we use whenever the owner takes anything for himself. Right, the next one, sold 3 of the computers that have been purchased on the 4th of January. A total amount of 12,900 Rand was received, and they tell you, remember the trade discount. So we are receiving money, the 12,900 is your receipt of money that comes into the business and is banked. Now to get this amount here, if you go back to here, we bought 10 computers here. So each computer costs you 1,980. So to get your cost price, you take that 1980 multiplied by 3, and that gives you the 5940. So that is how I calculate that cost of sales. Okay, the next one, withdrew 800 Rand to increase the cash float and the balance to pay a casual worker. Okay, the cash float amount there needs to go under sundry accounts, 50 Rand, but the rest of it was to pay the worker the wages that he had earned, and the total, one total in the bank, you're taking one amount out of the bank on that day. The next one, a computer which had been purchased from Adex dealers for office use was faulty and returned, and a full refund was received. And it was via EFT, so nothing under under analysis, and one amount here, 11,200 on the bank. Now a common mistake here is from my pupils anyway, is they write refund here. There's no ledger account called refund. We need to write the name of the thing that we are receiving the refund for, and in this case it was for equipment. So that's what you write under sundry accounts. Right, then sold goods for cash and received 28,000, and the cost of the stock sold, the code was INVIT. So the amount we sold for was 28,000, went into analysis and we banked it. To calculate this cost of sales, you need to use the code INVIT. So I is 1, N here is 9, so far 1, 9, V is 4, I is 1, and T is 5. So the cost price of that stock purchased is 19,415. I think that's quite straightforward. An EFT payment was made to repay the loan and interest on loan. We only pay the bank once, so there's one total here. But under sundry accounts, you must split it up. 6,000 for the loan, 550 for interest on loan. You cannot put 6,550 loan and interest on loan, because if you do that, when you come to the ledger, you won't know what amount is for loan and what amount is for interest. So you have to split them up here, but one total comes from your bank because you pay ABSA once. Okay, and then last one, transfer 19,800 Rand to Mrs. Lang's bank account for the month work. You pay monthly salaries, not wages. So you're going to use your cash payments journal here, and you're going to need to use sundry accounts where you write salary. And then on that same day, sold goods which had cost the business 5,000. Selling price was 8,500, but before we gave them a 6% discount. So the cost price they told you was 5,000. To get the selling price here, you could work out 6% and subtract it from 8,500, but another way of doing it is saying, well, if I give the person 6% discount, what percentage are they paying me? In this case, they're paying me 94%. So I just take the 8,500 and I times by 94% to get to my selling price, which comes into the business for sales. Okay, the next video I'm going to do is on general ledger, but for now that's all. Thank you.